have always encouraged anyone to start a podcast today. So if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. So let me explain. And this is the app I'm actually using to make this podcast. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Starting your journey to financial freedom. Now. You're listening to the New Investor Podcast.
Warren Buffett, the legendary investor, has said something that stuck with me. Nobody buys a farm based on whether they think it is going to rain next year. They buy it because they think it is a good investment over 10 or 20 years. And that right there summarizes the investment strategy and mindset to adopt. Buying stocks is buying a piece of a company, and the only approach that would make any sense is to buy a company that, unless the world economy melts away in the next 5 years, will still be around in the next 10 years and stronger, and after that, let the market do its job and build wealth for you. I have had young and new investors asking me how they could invest in Bitcoin or crypto. I always answer that I certainly do not look at this, even if it had the potential to change the world. I believe that you have those intentions now and asking me those questions right now because you're seeing that Bitcoin broke the $13,000 barrier from a $6,500 low in the recent months. So you're hearing that the bull has taken charge of Bitcoin, that it will reach $23,000 in the short term gains mindset. Getting there quick is actually the quickest way to lose. I was curious, so I listened to an analyst on Finance Network this morning. His astute analysis is basically saying he identified a bullish trend by looking at his graph, that he was right, that Bitcoin surged accordingly to $13,000, that it may reach $23,000, but that it might also drop back to $6,500. So, by being very clear as he is right now, he is saying that Bitcoin can surge 50% or drop by 50%. So you would have invested $13,000 as a young or new investor. I wonder how you would actually get a hold of this kind of money: credit card debt, split with friends, loans. Even if it is through your hard-earned savings, you're actually risking 50% of it in the hope of getting rich quick. Richer by a few $1,000s. Basically, you would buy one Bitcoin. I'm not exactly sure how this would go about, but how much do you really know about cryptocurrencies anyway? So I would never borrow money to invest. Another key component of investing is ensuring you keep your costs down. For example, I do all my investments myself. Every stock or any lot of stocks I purchase, I pay on average $3.99 for them, regardless of the amount of stocks I buy in a single shot. So, which I factor into the stock price as well. Now, if I had to factor in a loan and a broker, I would never end up making any money at all. So free yourself from any such burden, invest what you have on hand, and work harder towards reducing your expenses if you need. So we're looking at increasing your capital for investment. So it's that simple. Just decrease your expenses, free up some capital, use it to invest, keep your costs down, do it yourself. Don't go through a broker that will charge you a lot of money to work for you and is not even making the investments probably you would not want to do, and be free. That's what I'm saying. So I went quite extreme in the sacrifice department myself to free up enough to create wealth quicker. So I expatriated myself in hardship locations around the world to decrease my expenses and have a high salary base. I climbed the corporate ladder, got promoted multiple times and reached my targets to unlock bonuses, to increase my income and be able to increase my investments. Regardless of all what I just said, I kept my expenses down. An increase in salary and position does not mean you have now to spend more or live a grand life. On the contrary, keep the same expenses structure as if you were a clerk. There will be highs, there will be lows throughout our journey on the markets. I will step back when the markets are good and step in full force when the markets are in turmoil. So it does not matter. It is all a win-win situation anyway. So what I have also learned since is that once you have established your own financial structure and system around yourself that supports you towards freeing capital for investment, and I mean here regardless of the amount or what you're able to commit, as the important is to save. Once this is established, the routine of creating wealth will establish itself around yourself. Thank you for listening to the podcast, and I really hope that it brings you some additional support on your own journey towards financial freedom. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to never miss an episode, and looking forward to your DM and follow on Instagram at New Investor Podcast. In the meantime, stay invested, be patient, and keep playing the long-term game.